Rusame reader, Kurosong, and today I will be bringing to you the binge compilation for Desert Road. Before we get into that, I want to invite you to join the Discord, which is linked down in the description below. We also have the Reddit, that's linked down there too. Anyway, now on to the story of Desert Road by Doomsday Phoenix. Chapter 1. Ch-tack. America shut the door behind him. It had been another long day. His eyes adjusted to the light of the room. Though dim in reality, it was bright in contrast to his workspace, which had put him in a dull, dreary mood. He moved to hang his coat on the nearby rack when the lights flickered on. 50 smiling faces were staring him down. "Happy birthday, America!" came the joyous chorus. America had nearly jumped out of his skin, for he had nearly forgotten about today. A wave of guilt washed over him. He gazed at the States. Thank you, guys. He wasn't sure how to begin. New York stepped forward, reading his father's expression. Did you forget?" the State asked. America nodded, laughing sheepishly. "Aw, don't feel bad," Arizona chimed in. "You've been busy. And if you need help out there, we're always available," Iowa added. "You guys don't need to do that. I want you to enjoy yourselves, not constantly throw yourselves into situations when you all have your own things to worry about," America explained. "Bullcrap! You shouldn't have to handle these kinds of things alone. It's been 2 weeks now." America couldn't help but laugh again slightly. "Thank you, but unless we need it, you really don't have to aid us." "It doesn't matter if it's in battle or not," Maine cut in. "It could also mean you." "Yeah, we just want you to know we'll always be here if you need us." Florida grinned. "We're here to support you," Hawaii chirped. A lump formed in America's throat. He felt blessed to have such wonderful states. Choking up, he could only smile and nod. That was enough for them. Don't think we didn't get you anything." Massachusetts walked forward, moving towards the door window. The state said something else then. And 3, 2, 1. The sound of a vehicle horn rang from down the driveway. Quite loud, America should add. Massachusetts turned to him. "You should probably head out there." He smiled. Confused, America obliged and opened the door to outside. An enormous camper van was rolled up the driveway and parked neatly at the top. America couldn't yet see the driver inside, but soon the door swung open and it became abundantly clear. It was DC. "Hey, the district said coolly, as if it were no big deal. America laughed. "Where did you get this from?" he asked DC. "Oh, I had help." He nodded over America's shoulder to the front windows where he could make out the crowded faces of the states. They laughed some more. "That ain't all," DC added, turning around to face the camper. "All right, everybody, you can come out now." America's stomach did a flip as he watched a small group of people file out the door. People he hadn't seen in a long while. Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, the American Samoa. They were all there. America felt tears spring to his eyes. He bolted forward, meeting them halfway in a big hug. He started sobbing. "It's good to see you all. I'm so sorry I haven't been around as often. "Don't apologize," Guam interrupted sternly. "You try your best every day, and that's enough for us." They all pulled away from each other and headed inside. All the states were still there. "Thank you," he sniffed. "All of you." It was New York's idea. Massachusetts piped up. "Oh, shut it. It was a team effort." New York playfully tackled the other state. The others made room as they fell to the floor, laughing. The others laughed along. Then Florida raised a hand for silence. "That's not all we had planned for you." Her voice was laced with excitement. "We were able to get in touch with some of your other friends. They should be arriving in about half an hour." She smiled. America's eyes widened. "You mean I can see my parents? And my siblings? And my friends?" His breath caught in his throat. "But then I'll have to clean the..." "Chill out, America. We cleaned the place up for you already." Colorado gave him a thumbs up. "Just sit back and relax. You've earned it." America sighed. He couldn't ask for better states. They may have their flaws, but that doesn't stop them from living their best lives. He smiled and made his way into his bedroom for a quick rest. It seems as though America only closed his eyes for a moment before he began to hear a familiar voice coming from downstairs. "Oh, welcome. It's been a while, hasn't it?" He heard the voice of Texas. "Texas, I've missed you. How are you?" America shot out of bed at the sound of his brother's voice. He bolted down the stairs, nearly tripping and falling, and skidded to a halt once in the main hall. "Canada!" he shouted, a wide smile spreading across his face. His brother jumped back, startled at the sight of America, but his shock quickly turned into joy. However, the two brothers ran towards each other, meeting in a hug halfway. "May, happy birthday! I'm so happy to see you again. It's been so long." Canada pulled away from his brother, still smiling. "I brought you gifts. I hope you like them." He gestured to a small pile of gifts on a nearby table. "Aw, thanks, bro." America grinned, then added, "Hey, when are Mom and Dad coming? And what about..." Canada cut him off. "Don't worry about anything. The whole family's coming. Oh, and that reminds me." He led America through the main hall into the kitchen and out the door where his van was parked. The trunk was open, and someone was rummaging around, trying to get a hold of something. Canada darted forward to help them. "Ukraine, I told you to wait. You might hurt yourself." Ukraine came too? America was quite shocked, but also quite happy to see his friend again. "Aw, Canada, come on, I can handle it," Ukraine answered. Moments later, she started hauling a large box and its unknown contents. Canada rushed forward to assist her, and America startled forward to do the same. When he did, Ukraine's eyes widened slightly at the sight of her friend. "Oh, May, happy birthday." She smiled. "I heard about what happened, and I just had to tag along with Canada." "Well, I'm glad you came. I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been?" America asked as the three countries carefully maneuvered the box inside. Once there, they set the box down carefully on the gift table. "I've been alright. I just couldn't miss out when I got the call from New York." She turned to Canada. "Where did you put the food?" "Relax. It's in the fridge. Don't worry about anything," he replied, putting an arm around Ukraine. She leaned in. "Ooh, somebody's in love." A new voice sounded. America turned to see Rhode Island and Connecticut peering around the corner, snickering. "Hey, shoo, we're having a moment." Canada shouted stubbornly as the two states laughed uncontrollably, although he laughed along. Ukraine rolled her eyes, smirking. Just then, someone cursed and shouted, "Cars, lots of them!" Louisiana rounded the corner and bolted for the door, one of her wings nearly clipping a vase. America panicked. "Oh dear, this is going to be chaos. What am I..." "Don't worry, I got it." Louisiana shouted from across the room before jogging outside to greet everyone. America walked over to the window and peered outside. She was right. There were a lot of cars. It was almost like a parade. He saw Louisiana out there, as well as Georgia, Maryland, and Ohio, shuffling everyone towards the doorways. America's heart leaped at so many familiar faces. His parents, Britain and France, Japan, South Korea, Israel, Germany, his siblings, Australia and New Zealand, and many more. He rushed to open the door as the crowd of guests drew nearer, but it swung open before he could get his hand on the doorknob. The first to greet him there was one of his closer friends, the Philippines. He stepped back in shock, but grinned and leaped forward to give America a hug. May, I've missed you so much. How have you been? We have so much catching up to do. America nearly fell over, but he steadied himself and returned the hug. Aw, Phil, I missed you too. He pulled away and led him inside, letting the others follow. After being briefly mobbed by his friends and family, America was able to settle things down and let the crowd disperse. The next hour or so was filled with darting from room to room, catching up with everyone. Attention was drawn to the large box on the gift table. A few states had tried sneaking peeks at it, and it had now been moved elsewhere. To where, Canada and Ukraine wouldn't tell, until it was time to open the gifts. America sat down on the living room sofa, opening present after present. He was given a lot of thoughtful mementos. A pair of hockey sticks from Canada, a bonsai from Japan, some chocolate from Belgium, a set of wine glasses from France. The list went on. Lastly, the giant box was dragged in. America carefully tore open the top, opening the flaps of the cardboard, and nearly jumped out of his skin. A familiar face climbed out of the box, brushing himself off. Привет, America, he said hesitantly. Roughly translates to Hello, America. Chapter 2. America's mouth gaped open in shock. Russia? Hold on. What are you doing? He started, but Russia raised a hand to silence him. He stepped closer, his expression a mix of many emotions. Nervousness? Regret? America couldn't tell. You're probably wondering why I would even think about showing up here, he said, studying America's confused expression. The larger country continued. Well, believe it or not, your friends and family convinced me to come, and I wanted to say... He trailed off and muttered the last few words as he gestured to countries around the room. Some were watching with anticipation, like Japan and South Korea. Others seemed more nervous. Could you repeat that last part? America hesitantly asked. Minyashao, he snapped, slightly startling the other. I'm sorry, okay? Russia crossed his arms stubbornly. I'm sorry for all the shit I made you put up with. I may not sound genuine, but... He lowered his voice. Forced by your friends, or not, I really am sorry. I told Ukraine that, too, and everyone else. His expression changed from cold to guilty, and he scratched the back of his neck nervously. America looked around. Ukraine was smiling, leaning on Canada. Germany nodded his approval. Japan gave a thumbs up. Russia went on. I know this seems out of the blue, but I've been thinking about doing this for a while now. But there was never a good time. America knew what Russia meant, but he didn't say anything and let him continue. I guess the others read into my emotions. He laughed a bit. I thought that this would cheer you up a bit. At hearing this, America found himself struggling to keep it together. Russia. He took a breath before continuing, clearing his throat. That means a lot to me. It truly does. He started. But I should also apologize to you. I haven't exactly been the nicest to you either. I'm not going to try and make an excuse as to why. He didn't know what to say. After another moment of silence, Russia spoke again. We could last all day in circles, shifting blame onto ourselves, but I want you to know that I'm not mad at you, America. I want to put the past behind us and be friends. The other country cracked a smile, and America smiled back at him. He thought this moment would never come. Then Russia offered his hand. Let's start over, okay? His smile grew wider. America was in shock. Instead of taking his hand, he sprung up and tackled Russia into a hug, nearly tripping over the box. Though shocked, Russia laughed happily and returned the hug. Whoops and cheers erupted from the spectating countries, startling the pair. They pulled away from each other, laughing even harder. This is the best birthday gift I've received. America grinned. I've got a new friend. Russia let out a chuckle. So, how about we make the night one to remember? He stepped back to look around. Come on, show me what you guys do for fun. I'd be glad to. The smaller country beamed. It was now late evening, and no one had gone home yet. America was lounging in the backyard, sitting in a chair surrounding the fire pit. There were lots of people here, talking underneath the pavilion, taking walks. A couple of states were causing a ruckus in the pool. He watched with amusement as Arizona and New Mexico tussled around, dunking each other under the water, while Nevada unleashed a cannonball into the neighboring California and Utah. California burst out laughing, while Utah just cursed him out. In the shallow end of the pool, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, and Massachusetts were having a chicken fight. Rhode Island and Massachusetts were in an arm lock. After some struggling, Rhode Island yelped and fell backward into the water, taking Connecticut along with her. Massachusetts and New York let out a cheer of victory before also falling backwards. America laughed as he continued to watch them fondly. He once again couldn't begin to put into words how lucky he felt to have states like them. He leaned back, staring up at the orange sky. Ame! The voice of Japan made America's head snap up. He turned to see his friend eagerly running towards him, South Korea following closely behind. I just had the greatest idea, Japan grinned. Since you and Russia are friends now, maybe you should take the camper on a road trip together. America sat in silence for a moment, pondering if he should offer that kind of thing to his friend this soon. I don't know. I've been really busy, and his gaze was apologetic. I kinda just befriended him, too. Oh, right. South Korea spoke suddenly. I kind of forgot about the busyness part, considering how much of a blast we've been having. He tapped his foot on the ground, thinking, well, I'm sure you can take a break at some point, right? Yeah, you'll have plenty of time then, Japan added. America chuckled. We'll see. It does sound like fun, but I'll have to ask Russia if he'll be alright with it. After hearing this, the pair of countries trotted off. A little while later, Russia came to sit by America. By now, the sky was beginning to dim. What was that all about? He asked America. They wanted me to take you on a road trip, America told him, amused. But I've told them that I'm busy and, He found himself trailing off. I get it, America. Russia smiled. Though I wouldn't mind doing that. Sounds like fun. Really? America was shocked at the response. I don't see why not. Russia leaned back in his chair. America was unsure of how to react. He didn't expect his friend to agree so quickly. Through his shock, he smiled at Russia and said, I can't wait. America, Russia. Minnesota bounced over. We're about to start the fireworks, come on. She gestured with her hands for them to get up and follow her, which they did. How hectic does it get when you guys set off the fireworks? Very, America chuckled. We're quite patriotic, you know. I guess I should have known. The other country laughed along as his friend led him to the front of the yard. Chapter 3. It was raining out. Not particularly hard, but just enough to let the water collect in puddles. America approached his camper and opened the door to head inside. He was carrying a large suitcase. After dropping it in its designated spot, America headed back inside to retrieve the second one. Really? You're starting to pack now? Arkansas asked America as he made his way to the foyer. Someone's eager to spend time with his friend, Nebraska added, making sure to put emphasis on the word friend. America turned around to face the two states. What do you mean? America was confused. He is my friend. Nebraska and Arkansas snickered. He's a very good friend, Nebraska asked. You two do hang out a lot. And not to mention the many adventures you've already had. Just call them dates. Arkansas laughed. America rolled his eyes and continued to the foyer. He was nearing the front door when there was a knock. America turned and opened the door, seeing that Russia had arrived. A smile automatically appeared on his face at the sight of his friend. Leaping forward, America tackled Russia into a hug. Both countries began to laugh. I missed you, Russ. How have you been? America led Russia inside. Do you want me to help you with your bags? Are you hungry at all? Russia chuckled. Usfakoisu, ame. We're not in the rush, he said as he sat down in the mudroom, setting his bags down in the process. Are you sure? America twirled his thumbs. I'm just nervous. I've never done anything like this before. I mean, I have, just not with a friend. Really? Well, now I'm even more excited. Russia stood up again and headed to the kitchen. I am a little hungry, though. What do you have to eat? Oh, don't worry about that. I can bake you something. America rushed over to the cabinet, then got an idea. Russ, have you ever tried key lime pie? America asked his friend. It's a classic in my country. He smiled. That sounds delicious, Russia answered. All right. It shouldn't take too long to make, but feel free to make yourself at home. I'll call you when it's ready. And with that, America began hustling around the kitchen, grabbing ingredients from cabinets and drawers. Russia got up and headed out of the kitchen, not wanting to get in his friend's way. He hadn't seen the interior of his house in a while anyway. Turning the corner, he headed for the living room. Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and the Dakotas were fixated on the TV, munching on popcorn. North Dakota was drifting off, while Alabama and Louisiana were clinging to one another. South Dakota was the first to notice Russia. Hey, Russia, how you been? He stood up and shook his hand. I assume you're leaving with America soon? Nah, he's currently making me something to eat. Russia answered. It should be done in a bit. I'm just wandering around to kill time, and I'm great, thank you. Well, we're watching a movie right now if you want to join us, North Dakota spoke up, snapping fully awake. Sure, what's the movie about? Russia asked as he sat on the corner of the couch. Our favorite genre, sci-fi, Alabama said as she took another handful of popcorn. Huh. The country looked thoughtful as he stared at the screen. Alabama began to talk again. So, are you excited for the trip? Of course. I'm looking forward to seeing some things and spending time with America. That's good to hear. South Dakota sat back down. He's been looking forward to it too. He talks about you a lot, you know. He chuckled. He did tell me he's never done this kind of thing before. Russia shrugged. So I don't blame him. It's kind of sweet, actually. Louisiana giggled. We're all really glad he can hang out with someone like this. He's been too jittery about everything. Tell me about it. North Dakota yawned. He was starting to doze off again. Russia smiled. Well, I'm glad I'm good at lifting his spirits. For about 20 minutes or so, Russia and the 5 states sat and watched the movie. It wasn't necessarily to Russia's liking, but it wasn't half bad. After a while, America called Russia back into the kitchen. I haven't made this in a while, so it might not be of the best quality, America told his friend as he passed him a slice of pie. I'm sure it's great regardless. It certainly looks and smells good, Russia answered, grabbing a fork and sitting down. After taking his first bite, his mouth exploded with flavor. It was sweet, tangy, and sour all at once. His eyes widened, and America laughed, a little at his expression. This is great. Where did you learn to bake like this? Russia asked America, after swallowing. America smiled as he remembered. Well, it was mostly my mom that taught me when I was a colony, but as time went on, my states surpassed my knowledge of cooking and found ways to make everything taste way better. They all even invented their own recipes. Russia nodded. He was already done with the slice of pie. So, when do you want to leave? America asked Russia after he finished. I'm not in a hurry, but we can leave right now if you want. It's almost 4 p.m., so it won't be long before the sun starts to set, the other country answered. All right, let me grab our bags and... He wasn't even halfway out of the kitchen when what sounded like thunder came from upstairs. America's leaving, came the voice of Montana. Seconds later, America was surrounded by his states. We'll miss you, Oregon shouted. Take care, drive safe, Indiana added. I'll hold down the fort while you're gone, New York announced. Oh, you wish, Massachusetts playfully retorted as he tackled New York playfully. They had a habit of doing that. Hey now, settle down. You guys better behave or I'll send my siblings to look after you. America hugged his states. I'll keep them in order, Virginia smirked. Shouldn't be too hard. We'll take care of your bags, Missouri offered. In no time flat, the states had the bags, and the rest of the pie, out the door and in the camper. America and Russia followed them outside and climbed into the vehicle, with America taking the driver's seat. He started the engine, and once it came to life, Russia took his spot in the passenger side and buckled in. America rolled down the window, waving goodbye to his states one last time before pulling out of the driveway. Here we go, he said as he got on the road, taking a deep breath. Chapter 4. Russia and America had been on the road for about 4 hours now. They weren't planning on going anywhere specific. They just wanted to escape. See things America had often told Russia about how beautiful the countryside was, specifically the desert. So perhaps that would be their final destination. Spend a week or two out there, and then drive back home. The sun was just starting to set, and America was getting kinda hungry. "Hey, Russ, you up for some food?" he asked his friend. "Sure, I can eat. Where should we stop?" Russia smiled. America began looking around for signs. Eventually, the camper passed one, stating a few restaurants that could be found off the next exit. Perfect, America thought. It's for the best anyway. I'm pretty exhausted. He broke off in a yawn. As if on cue, Russia laughed. "You know, when we get back on the road, I can drive this time while you can sleep." "Thanks, but you don't have to." America smiled as he drove through the exit. "It's only fair," Russia protested, rolling down his window to get a better look around. All right. See anything you like?" America asked. Russia pointed at a nearby plaza. "Can we check over there?" "I see a couple of good ones. Let's go." After returning from the plaza, food in hand, the pair took their seats at the camper's table. They opened up the bags and began to eat. America had gotten a salad, while Russia had gotten a small order of fries. After a few minutes, America snatched the remote for the TV across the table and turned it on. Immediately, the news popped up on screen. There was a story regarding global tension. Nothing new. If anything, the news channel was over-exaggerating. America changed it to a weather channel instead, before stabbing his salad with his fork. "For the area shown here," the weatherman droned, "there will be clear skies with some clouds here and there. Temperatures will be in the 70s and can reach as high as the 90s in some places. There's a slight possibility of some isolated storms out west in the next couple of days." "Storms?" Russia looked up from his fries. "Not here. More out west," America answered through a mouthful of salad. "I wouldn't worry. They'll probably pass by the time we swing around there." Russia shrugged. He glanced at the wall clock. 8:42 it read. "It's getting a little late. Should we call it for the night?" he asked. "Yeah, we need to be well rested if we don't want to fall asleep at the wheel," America snickered. "Ha! Unlikely. We're driving shifts, remember? In the morning, I'm going to be the one that's going to drive." Russia smiled smugly. America merely rolled his eyes playfully. "Whatever. I don't have the energy to fight you on it." America finished off his salad and tossed the container into the trash. He made his way over to the back of the camper, where the bed was folded up against the wall. Grasping for the handle at the top, he gently brought it down, the cables keeping it level. He smoothed out the bedspread and adjusted the pillows, making it look nicer. It was a bit on the smaller side, but it would have to do. Russia walked over. His expression meant he was probably thinking the same thing. "You, don't toss and turn too much, right?" he asked, to which America started laughing. "Nah, you don't have to worry, Russ. I'll just take a side and make sure I don't bother you." "All right, America," Russia grinned. "But if you end up shoving me off this bed, so help me." He mock-menacingly took a step forward towards America, causing him to shove the other way gently. "I can't promise anything," he said slyly. Making sure all the shades were down, the lights were off, and the door was locked, the pair clambered into the bed. The bed was a bit stiff, but at least the blanket would keep them warm. "I wonder how many hours we'll be on the road tomorrow," America thought. "Hopefully the traffic won't be bad." "Get away! It's going to come down!" came a shout from somewhere behind America. He barely heard, though. He was fixated on the crumbling building before him. The Capitol. He knew it was just an illusion, fabricated from his mind. He tried to tell himself that, but some invisible force rooted him to the spot. The ground began to swallow up the marble structure, causing the earth to crack and split. The hole grew wider and wider until it was nearly at America's feet. He swayed for a moment before falling forwards, the blackness of the hole coming up to meet him. Gasping, America flung open his eyes and shot forward, sitting up in bed. Slowing down his breathing, he wiped the sweat from his forehead. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts of the awful nightmare. It was difficult, though, for this nightmare had been a reoccurring one for quite some time now. He was just about to lie back down when he heard Russia beside him. "You all right?" he asked, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "I'm fine. Just a bad dream is all." "Was it about the Capitol again?" America nodded his head slowly. "I'm sorry, but you gotta remember, something like that will never happen. Still, I hope that dream stops reoccurring." Russia bore a look of sympathy. America felt himself tearing up. "I still can't help but feel guilty about everything. Sometimes I feel like Russia interrupted him. "Guilt is a natural thing. Some things are just out of our control. We have to learn to live with that." But the nation wasn't sure what else to say. "I know it's a hard thing to face." Russia put a hand on his friend's shoulder. "But just know this. You're doing good." America leaned on him a little, wiping away a few tears that had fallen. "Now come on, let's get back to bed. It's very early in the morning," Russia said after a while. He gave his friend a hug before settling back down. America, now calmed, did the same, curling up under the blanket once more. Sleep found him quickly. Chapter 5. America awoke to the early morning sunlight streaming through the blinds. Sitting up, he stretched and yawned, blinking the sleep from his eyes. Glancing at the clock, he breathed a sigh of relief. 8:04 a.m. It wasn't too late. "I see you're finally up," America heard Russia say from the kitchen. He hadn't noticed him until now. Smiling, he swung his legs off the bed and stood up, walking over to see what his friend was doing. That's when the rejuvenating scent of coffee hit him. "I brewed us some coffee for the day. We're gonna need it," the larger country said as he moved the pot into 2 mugs set on the counter. America grabbed the handle, careful not to burn himself. "Thanks, Russ." America grinned before taking a sip. It burned his tongue slightly, but he didn't care. Russia took his mug in hand and moved to open the blinds, squinting as the camper was flooded with light. America walked over, gazing out the window. There were a few clouds dotting the sky, and the sun blazed bright, just peeking above the nearby trees. The parking lot they were parked in was close to empty, and the nearby roads were lacking in activity. "I'm gonna start the camper." Russia elbowed America gently. "And remember, I'm the one driving today. You deserve a break." America didn't try and argue. He simply hopped in the passenger seat, careful not to spill his coffee. Russia did the same, sticking the keys in the ignition and turned them, causing the camper to come to life again. America took another sip of his coffee as his companion drove the vehicle out of the parking lot, once again making sure he didn't spill anything. Once they were on the highway, America turned on the radio, changing stations from commentary to music until he found a weather station. He wanted to see where that big storm was headed. "And now, if we move over here," the radio buzzed. you can see that the storm is still making its way across the west. There shouldn't be too much of a threat with this system, but please remember to be cautious when driving on wet roads, as they tend to get slippery. You sure we won't get caught in that thing, Amay? Russia broke in, taking a gulp of coffee. I'm used to driving in the snow, not the rain. Even if we do, we can always get off the road and wait for it to pass, you know? The smaller country replied. I wouldn't worry about it, Russ. Besides, he added proudly, I've driven through much worse. Russia nodded in response. Well, I trust you, Amay. He briefly took a hand off the steering wheel and rested it on the other shoulder. Before America could respond, the two countries felt the camper lurch. Some coffee spilled, and America cursed. Seconds later, there was a loud pop. Instinctively, Russia put on the hazard lights and got off the highway as quickly as he could. Oh, that can't be good, America thought as the camper came to a stop. Faster than lightning, the pair of countries unbuckled and hopped out of the vehicle to check each of the tires. When America got to the back left tire, he could already tell it was flat. The country cursed under his breath again and immediately sped over to the trunk, yanking it open to check for a spare. Did you find the issue? America heard Russia ask. He grunted in response as he tried to drag out the metal and rubber object along with the toolbox. Thankfully, my states thought of this long before we left. He set the tire on the ground and began to change it out. Wow, how did you learn to change it out so fast? Russia asked as he squatted down beside his friend. The busted tire came loose. Practice, America answered simply. He was installing the new one in now. Do me a favor, throw the flat tire in the trunk. I'll be done in just a sec. America fiddled with the wrench. No problem, May. The larger country responded, grabbing the flat tire and gently placing it in the trunk in the place where the spare was. I'm done. Let's get going. America stood up and brushed himself off, tossing the toolbox in the trunk and shutting it. As quickly as they had hopped out, they were back in the camper. America had snatched some paper towels to soak up the spilled coffee. I have to say I'm impressed. Russia smirked, turning the ignition on and carefully merging back onto the highway. I should have known better than to worry about something like that. America smiled at his friend's words. It's nothing really. Trust me when I say it gets old fast. The two countries fell silent for a moment, but then America spoke. Hey, thanks for last night, he began. I appreciated the comfort you gave me. He gazed out the window. It's been hard to talk about things, so... It was no problem, his friend replied warmly. I suppose I can relate to your fears. He cleared his throat before continuing. I get worried a lot when things take a turn for the worse, but... He glanced at the other. I suppose things feel a bit better when I talk about it with someone. He put on the turn signal, merging into another lane. Sorry, you just said it was hard to talk about the... No, America broke in gently. It's not going to get any better for me if I don't open up about it. He smiled. Besides, I don't mind opening up to you. I know you pretty well now, and I think of you as a source of comfort, a shoulder to lean on, if you will. The other country found himself stumbling over his words. No one has ever considered me something like that. I mean, how could I not? I never thought that we could ever be friends, but here we are, talking like we've known each other forever. I never thought we could be friends either, Russia sighed. I was afraid you were going to be mad at me or send me away. I could never do that. What's happening now is out of our control. For everyone. You can either choose to go along with it, ignore it, or forgive and move on. You chose to forgive, and because of that, there was no way I couldn't forgive you as well. America grinned. Everyone else seemed happy about it too. Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, the rest of NATO. If only it were that simple in real life. Russia seemed to go into deep thought. I wish I could stick it to the people in charge of us and tell them about how batshit crazy they are. Every last one of them. America laughed, covering his mouth. You got that right. The pair of countries laughed together as they rode down the highway. They continued to talk and laugh as the hours went by, slowly making their way out west. They stopped to eat around 2 p.m. before continuing on their way. Soon, the sun began to set. Hey, America, what state are we in? Russia asked his companion. Huh? Oh, we're in Oklahoma, I do believe. We're close to the Mexican border. America responded, a bit drowsy. Russia laughed softly. I think we should look for a place to rest. Nah? That would be nice. America yawned. If only I had gotten to drink the rest of that coffee. It also probably didn't help that you woke up in the middle of the night, Russia added. The other country shrugged. I suppose you're right. Russia left the highway off the next exit and began to look around for a place to rest for the night. It was a small town with some small buildings and houses dotted around the streets. The country was able to find a nice open area to park. By the time he had done that, America was nearly asleep. Laughing quietly to himself, Russia grabbed the windshield screen and set it up before turning the vehicle off. He put it in park and hopped out of his seat, heading to the back of the camper to unlatch the bed from the wall. Then he tried waking his friend. May. He nudged him on the shoulder gently. Come on, you can't sleep in here. The smaller country didn't respond. He had sunk into unconsciousness. Seeing no other option, Russia gently wrapped his arms around his friend and picked him up bridal style. He was a little heavier than he thought, but he was able to carry America over to the bed. He gazed down at his friend. He looks so peaceful and kinda cute. Wait, what? Sighing, Russia gently set America down on the bed and covered him up with the blanket. After making sure all the blinds were shut and the doors were locked, the country climbed into bed himself. It took him a minute or so to fall asleep, as he couldn't seem to turn his brain off. Chapter 6. The next morning, America was the first one to wake up. He yawned and stretched and slowly climbed out of bed. Then he made his way over to the kitchen area to brew himself a cup of coffee. As he loaded up the coffee maker and turned it on, the sound of it was enough to wake Russia. The country swung his legs over the bedside and hopped off. America glanced at him. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, did I wake you up? No, I mean, you did, but I don't care. Russia laughed and walked over. I'm surprised you're up before me. You were out like a light before I got the chance to park. I was? America seemed confused. It suddenly occurred to him that he must have passed out in the seat. I, had to carry you to bed. Russia seemed to faintly fluster. America fiddled with his hands. Sorry you had to do that. I'm, not the lightest thing in the world. He laughed sheepishly. Russia shrugged. It wasn't that bad. I could do it again, he said proudly, then quickly added, but obviously I don't have to. I'm not saying I need to, either. America couldn't help but laugh despite the awkwardness. I don't doubt your abilities, Russ. Even I know you're extremely strong. Why, thank you. The bigger country smirked. You're not too bad yourself. I mean, I guess. America seemed to grow a bit flustered himself at the compliment. Anyway, the coffee's done. Do you want any? Yes, please. Russia smiled and nodded, then walked over to grab 2 mugs from the cabinet, one for him and one for his friend. America started to pour the hot beverage into both mugs. Once he was done, he handed a mug to his friend, who took it happily. Cheers! Russia smiled more and held his mug to America's. Oh, cheers! America laughed. Clink. They both took a sip, careful not to burn themselves. America walked to the front of the van and took the sunshade down off the window, rolling it up and sticking it in an overhead compartment. I think we might reach the desert soon. We're close to the Mexican border, he mused. The Southwest is beautiful. I can't wait to show you. I can't wait to see it. Russia grinned as he sat in the passenger seat. Although I think I might be very well out of my element, he added jokingly. America snickered. Don't worry, we have plenty of water with us. If you ever get hot, let me know. America reassured his friend, and gulped down the rest of his coffee, not wanting a repeat of yesterday. Then he hopped into the driver's seat and turned on the camper. He checked the digital compass. They were facing north. America maneuvered the vehicle out of the roadside parking space and back into the road itself. He found the highway once more and got onto it. What's it like in the desert? Russia asked. I've seen plenty of pictures of the deserts you have here, but I want you to describe it for me. Well, firstly, America started, the deserts in Arizona have to be my favorite. Arizona herself brags about it a lot, and some of the other western states often butts head about it. But secretly, Arizona's deserts are my favorite. You've seen pictures of the Grand Canyon, right? Russia nodded. Is that where we're going? We can go if you like. America grinned. I was about to describe how vibrant the rocks are and how massive the canyon itself is. All throughout the desert, there's giant cactuses and rolling sand dunes. There are majestic rock formations besides the canyon. The wildlife there is neat, too. But my favorite part of all of it has to be the sunsets. Desert sunsets have always been my favorite. Huh. Russia, who has been listening intently, took a moment to soak everything his friend had said in. Disregarding the photos I've seen of it, it sounds quite nice. Thanks. I'm not exactly the best at describing things, but if it was good enough for you, then I suppose it doesn't matter. You'll always be good enough for me, Russia said without thinking. America felt his heart skip a beat. That's nice to hear, and he searched for something to say in return. I suppose the feeling is mutual. Only for a brief moment, he looked away from the road to smile at Russia. He smiled back before his friend looked back at the road. Hey, maybe we can find a nice spot and watch the sunset, he suggested. I'd like that. America smiled more, already imagining what it would be like, just the two of them watching a sunset. Wait, that sounds like a scene from a cliché romance movie, America thought, and held back a nervous laugh. Russia spotted a sign off the side of the highway. It read, Welcome to New Mexico, the land of enchantment. America saw it too. We're one state away. The smaller country sounded excited, which made Russia grin. What's your favorite state? He asked suddenly. Are you kidding me? That's like asking me to pick a favorite kid. America laughed, then paused. Wait, That's basically what it is. Anyway, I think it's impossible to decide. Lots of people would expect me to say California, New York, or Florida, but it's not as simple as that. I mean, sure, those are all nice states, but all the others are good too, each in their own unique ways. He sighed. Sometimes some of my states get really down about not being important or as popular in terms of tourism or other things like that. Luckily, my states are good sports, and they're always there to pick each other up when they're sad. Sounds like you raised them well, Russia nodded. Sometimes I think that, and sometimes I think I could have done better. My territories, for example, I can't really visit them as much as I want to. They don't live with you? No, they live in their own separate house with a bunch of other small Pacific and Atlantic territories and countries, like Palau, Micronesia, and all of those guys. Oh, I see. Russia nodded. There's like 50 of them. The house is plenty big, don't worry, but they described it as being similar to my household. America chuckled. Whoa. Russia seemed surprised. And how often do they visit? My territories? Once or twice a month, at least. I just think that I could go visit them every once in a while. You could after we return, Russia suggested. I'm sure they'd appreciate the visit. I think they would, America mused. I'll keep it in mind. The pair of nations fell silent for a while. The highway, Russia noticed, was mostly empty. It made sense, considering that they sat on the cusp of a vast desert. Trees were scarce, and the landscape that surrounded them was mostly flat, save for a few mountains in the distance. How long will it take us to get to the Grand Canyon? Oof, I don't want to say. America trailed off. 7 hours, give or take? Of course, we can always stop at, the halfway mark, which would probably be out past Albuquerque. Whatever works for you, Russia chuckled and shrugged. As long as I keep seeing this beautiful countryside, I could care less where we go. Well, America smiled warmly. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. How can I not? He grinned. You're good company, May. I'm relieved I'm not boring. The nation felt warm. Russia shook his head, amused. Then he glanced out the window and began to think. America was thinking, too. Russia sure likes to compliment me. He's a really good friend, but the compliments seem kind of romantic? Or is it just me? Chapter 7. It was a long, tiring road to the Arizonan border. Of course, as America promised, he and Russia stopped to rest past Albuquerque for a brief period of time, where they bought snacks and refilled the tank. The sun was slowly sinking, and the sky was starting to change from blue to more of an orange-yellow. However, the pair of friends had also been tuning in to listen to the weather forecast, just to keep tabs on that storm that kept being mentioned. When they passed the border, America began to look around for some place to pull over. Occasionally, they drove past a small building of some sort, but there weren't any inns or hotels or even gas stations nearby, it seemed. He sighed. Russ, I think we might have to pull over. On the side of the road? He glanced over at his companion, who nodded. Yep, I don't see any good place to stop. No signs or anything. And if we keep going to the canyon, we're not going to get any sleep. You've got the point, he mused. Look, I don't care what you do. I'd rather do what you're suggesting than have you fall asleep at the wheel. The Tower Nation laughed. America made a face. Come on, I've pulled all-nighters before. And when was the last time you did? Not important. Then you've proved your own point. Let's just find a flat place to pull off. Russia chuckled. America playfully rolled his eyes before easing off the gas and gently guiding the camper off the road into the dusty desert terrain. Once completely off, he parked the vehicle and shut off the engine. Hey, May. Russia glanced outside his window. Yeah? Isn't that the big storm we've been hearing so much about? He pointed to the dark, ominous-looking group of clouds that were situated far off to the left of the travelers. From the looks of it, it was already dumping heaps of rain across the desert, something that probably happened only once or twice a year. I think you might be right. America nodded. I mean, hey, at least we won't get caught in it. He yawned and climbed out of the seat, entering the back of the van. That's not all. Did you look at the rest of the sky? Russia sounded awestruck. America turned back around for a double take and realized that the sky was beginning to turn from a yellow-orange to an array of vibrant pinks and purples. He gasped. Oh, this is perfect. This is the kind of view I was trying to describe. And it's exactly the kind of view I was hoping for, his friend added before swinging open his door and leaping out and shutting it. Half confused, America followed him. Come on, we'll get the better look from the top. The top? Oh! America suddenly understood. There's a ladder to the roof on the back. He led Russia over to said ladder before quickly scaling it. Soon enough, both countries were on the roof of the vehicle. Carefully, America sat down at the head of the van, and Russia sat next to him. Funny how this worked out, huh? Russia chuckled again. I got my promised American sunset. It's beautiful, isn't it? America sighed happily. Hey, what are Russian sunsets like? Mine? Well, I've seen my fair share of sunsets up past the Arctic Circle. Those just hit different, I suppose. An Arctic sunset. I think I might know what our next road trip might be. Next road trip? Russia thought for a moment. Will that be our thing? Traveling the world together like an old married couple? Old married couple. America laughed. I mean, I guess you could say that. Russia gazed at his friend as he laughed. All right, then. I mean, unless that's too weird. America's laughter died down. Because, you know, I don't know. Russia snickered. It's all right to me. Honestly, it's pretty fitting. America looked flustered. I suppose it is. Yeah. Anyway, the storm is getting pretty close. Should we, head back inside? Are you kidding? I've got the best view in the world right now. I got all I need, right here. He smiled at America, who blushed even more. Ruz, you're doing that on purpose, aren't you? Doing what? Flirting? He shrugged nonchalantly. Nah, I know what I'm doing. Ah! America gently shoved his friend, letting out a nervous laugh. Where is this coming from? I don't know. Just feels right, I guess. Russia shrugged again. But if you're uncomfortable, I can stop. No, it's not that. America shook his head. I'm fine with it. Wait, is that weird? Nope, just makes you gay," his friend teased. The other country made a face. "You know that doesn't work on me, right? I am gay." "I know," Russia smirked. "It's really obvious." "Oh, you!" America half-tackled his friend, and the pair laughed together in a lopsided hug. There were some distant rumbles of thunder. "You know, flirting with a gay man kind of makes you gay, Russ." America giggled and pulled back to look at his friend. "Huh, I guess you're right." Russia shrugged once more. "Ah, well, at least I've got company." "Why are you so chill about all this?" The smaller nation looked at his friend, half curious, half nervous. Russia gave his companion a warm smile. "It's quite simple, May." He gestured at the fading sunset. "Because, given the choice, I'd live the rest of my life like this, chasing sunsets with my closest friend." He paused. "And that seems kind of a little too romantic for a pair of guys who are just friends, yeah?" "I can't tell if you're joking or not anymore." America's face was a bright red. "That's not the problem." Russia laughed softly. "I can think of a way to clear up the confusion." "And that is?" "Do you trust me?" "Is that even a question? Of course America was cut off as he was brought in close and kissed by Russia. He was shocked at first, but quickly relaxed. It lasted for only a few moments before they pulled away from each other. "Did that help?" Russia asked, chuckling at America's starstruck face. Yeah, it did." "Are you sure? You still look a little confused." "You might be right." America, though nervous, leaned back in. They kissed again. "Better?" "Better." "Good." Russia wrapped his arms around America, who clung to him happily. More thunder rumbled across the sky. A few raindrops fell from above, but the pair didn't move. Should we head in now?" He looked back up at his new partner. "Only if you want to." Russia shrugged. "I'd hate for this to end, though." "We could make this a yearly thing, or something," America suggested. "We can take the camper out here again and make this our little pit stop." "That sounds perfect." The other nation smiled. More rain fell, and it was starting to soak them both. "Okay, now I think we should head in, before we get sick." Both countries laughed, then began to make their way back into the vehicle. Not long after they made it in, the rain began to pick up in intensity, and the drumming of the roof became louder. "Not sure if I'm gonna be able to sleep tonight." America glanced outside. Lightning flashed on occasion. Russia unfolded the bed from the wall. "Why? You scared?" He smirked. America smirked back and rolled his eyes. "Of course not. Heavy rain just gives me trouble sleeping." "Ah, don't worry." Russia dramatically puffed out his chest. "I'll protect you." America snickered. "You goof." He climbed into the bed, and his companion followed. "But if you insist..." He snuggled up next to Russia, who hugged him. "I could get used to this." He smiled at America. "Me too," he agreed, then added, half to himself, "I wonder what my states will think of this." "I'm sure they won't care." Russia shrugged. "But I have a feeling some of them won't be surprised." "What makes you say that?" America looked confused. Russia laughed a little. "Well, do you remember when you were baking me that pie?" "Of course, that was only a few days ago." America snickered. Well, a few of your states were telling me about how glad they were you and I were hanging out like this, and that you spoke of me often. Oh, he blushed. I did tend to talk about you a lot. And now that I think about it, some of the states must have poked fun at it at some point. I guess it was meant to be, huh? Russia planted a kiss on America's forehead. I guess so. Eventually, the pair of nations drifted off. The sound of the storm hardly bothered them. Epilogue. Psst, a May. Hmm? Russia laughed. Come on, you have to move a little. Do I have to? Kinda. I'm getting a little hungry. Oh, fine, America mumbled before rolling off to the other side of the bed. Russia sat up and yawned. It was still fairly early. Ready to get going? Coffee first. Russia laughed again and got up. I'll take care of that, but only after you get up. America sighed dramatically and swung his legs over the side of the bed before getting to his feet. His partner smirked and kissed him. Morning. Morning. America smiled and stretched. I won't lie, that was the best I've slept in a while. Really? Well, you should get used to it. Russia began to prepare the coffee. America went and took down the sunshade before opening the few blinds. The storm had passed. It's been a while since I've been to the Grand Canyon. Maybe, if we're lucky, there won't be too many tourists. I'm not worried about that. You shouldn't be either. He split the coffee up into 2 mugs. Then he cracked open the fridge to retrieve what was left of the pie. America shrugged. I guess. I just want you to be able to get a good view. Rusame. It won't be the end of the world if we don't. I mean, I already saw a pretty neat sunset yesterday, and I got a partner out of it, so that's cool, too. America laughed. You've got a point. Russia passed the other country a mug, then broke out some silverware before sitting down at the table. America sat next to him. For a while, the pair of nations sat together, eating the pie and talking laughing. Eventually, they got back on the road, with Russia behind the wheel this time. It was relatively quiet and easy most of the way to the canyon. The traffic only started to pick up as they approached it, and once they arrived, they did so just before 10 a.m. Jesus, it's a miracle we were able to find somewhere to park, America said as he hopped out of the camper. Russia laughed and nodded in agreement. You're telling me. Now, how do we get in? This way. America took him by the hand and led him out of the lot. After paying to enter, it was just a short little hike over to one of the many cliff sides dotting around the park. The nations inched their way to the front, where they were able to get a full view. Oh wow. Russia gazed at the canyon in awe. America sighed happily. It never gets old. This is probably one of my most favorite places in my country. He glanced at his partner. Pretty, ain't it? Yeah. He rested his arms on the short fence in front of him. It's beautiful. I'm glad you're enjoying it. America smiled happily. Was it worth the trip? May. Russia looked at him. Even if we didn't end up here, this trip was still worth it, every moment. He put an arm around America. I got to come out here with you, didn't I? Aw, Russ. He leaned on him. I love you. I love you too. Russia closed his eyes, and America did too. They felt more peaceful than they had in a long while. Therefore, neither of them moved for a time. They didn't want it to end. And that's the end of this book. I hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, I again invite you to join the Discord server, which is linked down below, as well as the Reddit. The Reddit, you can just do what you want in there. Have fun. I made it, and I don't know if people really even notice it exists. But it's there. It's there. I'm still not entirely sure what's up next. I think I'm going to start love letters, and maybe we'll see about what comes after that, if there's anything. If not love letters, then maybe Sinclair Academy, if I get permission. Anyway, I hope you have a nice rest of your day, night, or whatever it is for you. Just enjoy your time. And I will see you tomorrow, hopefully.